When you really follow the core values and you hire based off the core values, you reprimand based off the core values, and you document it, the person can see all the times that they've gone against the core values when looking back at that. There's no one to blame at that point other than themselves. Welcome to the Spinoso Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Alex Spinoso. My experience is in building 7, 8, and 9-figure medical companies, and I'm here to help you. This isn't a podcast to tell you, hey, this is what you should do. It's just telling you what I did, and I hope that helps you. My goal is to help you improve your life, your business, and everything that's associated with that. And as always, we're joined by the lovely Amanda May today. How are you doing, girl?
I'm fantastic.
Yes.
So this week I decided to enter Elia in a Baby of the Year contest.
Yeah.
Saw.
Yeah.
And
I've already paid way too fucking much money for it.
You did. But part of the reason I liked that one, that contest,
Okay.
was because of the charity. It's a baby to baby is the charity. And
baby versus baby? So do they have the babies fight in this?
Well, speaking of fighting, I feel like we should have a debate on which one of our babies would win if they were in a ring together.
Do the triplets get to be like a team? Because I think they're a wolf pack.
Well, I feel like to keep it fair, it would have to be Elia and Camila.
Elia's mobile now, though, right?
I know, but Camila
she's like a fucking potato
right now. But I feel like she's gonna grow up tough.
Her nails, though, are fucking ridiculous. Kids' nails grow so fast, and they're like little Ginsu knives. Grabbing you, like they just grab you, and kids don't grab with their hands; they grab with like their nails. So they're like I feel like they grab you in their chest, and it's like a fucking what's it called from Indiana Jones, where the guy's like Kalima. It's like she's trying to rip my heart out, and then she grabs like my chest hair, and she loves to grab Steph's hair. And they're like, she is evil, man.
Yeah.
She will definitely grab Ellie's hair.
The other day, Sean was like beat up basically from her because they're in the playpen playing and he's kind of standing above her and she just like stands up real fast.
Oh,
and so he hits his lip and his lip's bleeding. Okay. She doesn't even care.
Yeah.
She's just
headbutt him.
Right? So then like a couple hours later, to your point, she scratches his lip, grabs him, and he's bleeding on the top. So he's got a fat lip on the bottom, bleeding on the top.
Yeah.
I don't know. She might win.
He comes home like, please, God, save me.
He's like all like bruised and battered, and I'm like, what happened to you today?
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny because when I was a kid, I used to headbutt people. So I would like headbutt my mom.
Like on purpose?
Oh, yeah. Totally asshole thing to do. But I would like headbutt my mom. And then, one day my dad caught me doing it and he literally like just lit me up, headbutted me back, like fucking lit me up. And I was like all dizzy and shit. And I didn't, they say I didn't headbutt people after that. But when Leo was young, he would do the same thing. He would like just headbutt people over and over until like he did it to me. And we just kept headbutting each other. He just kept doing it over and over. We kept headbutting each other until he finally gave up and was like, man, this fucking hurts. And had to stop. So yeah, we're a headbutting family. Leo. Bella is a biter. Bella has fucking canines like that look like she's either part werewolf or part vampire. They are sharp. Like filed.
Or she knew in the womb she was going to need it because she was going to have two brothers.
Her teeth, like, you know how people file down their fucking canines to be, she looks like they grew out like that. Wow. They're terrifying. And yeah, she's a fucking biter. She bites the boys like no other.
Do they beat on her?
They try, they fight her, but like, they all fight with each other. But you get bit by Bella, it's going to fucking ruin your day. Like it's
so we don't want to stick Bella in a ring with Elia.
Yeah, she'll bite a finger off.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Camila will just scratch her to death with her little Ginsu knife
well, and I
fingers.
think if we go based off what the dads look like, maybe we can go off of that and see which one would win in a match between you and
Yeah,
Sean.
yeah. It just depends. If it's boxing, I'm fucked because Sean's got that like tall and long reach. But if we're on the ground, like it's over. And
I
I
have
just
a
got to get him to
feeling.
the ground. Like that's it. That's it. He ain't getting up after that. Like, yeah. But if
And
he
your
stays
head
a distance, he'll just punch me in the fucking head all day. He'll be punching down. He'll be punching in the top of the head all
You know,
day.
my brother used to do that. My mom bought us boxing gloves because
Yeah,
we would fight as kids.
that's awesome.
And so she's like, if you're gonna fight, I mean, like, let
Yeah,
me equip you, right?
sanctioned matches in the
So,
May household.
and my brother used to just because I'm fun until that point in then my temper kicks
Yeah.
in, and then I'm just like pissed. And so he just knew how to get me to that point, and we'd be boxing and it'd be fun. And he was a wrestler, so he'd put me in all these crazy moves and stuff. But he would just get me to that point, and he thought it was hilarious because I would just get so mad,
Mhm.
and there was no stopping me. I'm just running in, and I'm just like, I'm gonna kill you, you know. And I couldn't at all. He's so much bigger than me.
Yeah,
But he would do that. He
yeah.
would just like as I'm running, just
Mhm.
stick his arm out,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not even punch me,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just stick his
You just
arm out.
run straight into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what would happen for sure, for sure.
Anyway, hopefully Elliot takes the baby of the year
Yeah,
contest.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
doing she's in first right now,
yeah, she's
thanks
in
to
first
you
place. Yeah,
and
yeah,
our team. So I
yeah.
read last night that they reset the votes as it gets closer. When they
Really?
get down to like the top 4, top 6, then
Oh,
they
this is
reset the votes.
bullshit.
I know, I
When do
thought
we
so
know?
too.
When do we get to know? It said soon, right?
No, it's not until November 29th.
Holy crap, this is like 3 months?
I
Oh, I did all
know.
that? I should have just waited to the end. This is
Well, I
bullshit.
don't know. She's in first now, so she's definitely gonna end up in the next round.
Do they eliminate
Interesting.
babies?
Yeah.
Like they just kill them? Like this is a to the
Something
death
like
thing.
that.
If you're not baby of the year, if you ain't
That's
first, you're
it.
last.
You're done.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say Baby to Baby, speaking of that, is a charity that gives underserved women diapers for their kids.
Oh, nice.
So I thought, if anything, this is going for a good cause. So people who do donate votes,
Yeah.
it's gonna go for diapers to help other families in
Oh, that's
need.
awesome.
And you having 4 babies,
Yeah.
like
Oh, it was
the
insane.
need for diapers.
Oh, it was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
The amount of diapers.
I was telling Sean this morning how grateful I am that we've been able to provide like real high quality diapers and formula. And, like
Right,
when
right,
I
right.
was young and I had Isaac, I was like, what
Yeah, yeah.
anything I can
We got
get.
military shit. Like when I was growing
Mm.
up, I had I drank military formula and crap like
This
that.
is why you can
Probably,
headbutt things.
probably, yeah. That's why I could headbutt shit.
I love
Right?
it. All right. Well, today we're going to talk about maintaining vision, the vision and the core values when you're experiencing growth in your company, and the journey with Genesis Lifestyle Medicine and the rapid growth of the company up to this point. Some of the things that you've done, I think it would be good for our listeners to hear, as far as being able to maintain your original vision and the core values. And you've done this with multiple companies. So, tips, tricks, insights, things like that will help our listeners maintain the core values and the things that they saw when they started their companies as they grow, and how hard that can be sometimes, especially as the growth process continues. So some of the things that you've done along the way to maintain the vision and the core values of the brand.
Right. It's definitely difficult as you grow and expand, especially where you don't have a headquarters or where all your employees and your teammates are in one area that you go to every single day. I feel like that's a lot easier. It would be a lot easier if all of our employees were obviously in one building. They saw each other every day. We were able to, Brent and I, as the owners, walk into that building every single day. So it's been a huge challenge to do it across multiple different states. Now I think we're in 22 different states. We're all over, spread from the very, very tip of the Northeast and the Northwest to Southern California to the Panhandle of Florida and everywhere in between. So we're all over the place. It's been pretty difficult, but it's I think we've done an okay job of it. I think we could always do better, but I'm always going to say we could always do better.
Well, what was your original vision with Genesis when you first started this?
Well, when we first started, Genesis was like called CellSpark. It was a stem cell company, and we originally were just saying, "Hey, we're going to build a bunch of these small little stem cell companies. We're going to be really mobile." And after a while, really about 4 to 6 months in that field specifically, we saw all of the like razor's edge when it came to the FDA and their opinions of it. And I was on a couple different boards in the stem cell world and different companies, and realizing, hey, the government doesn't really like this. The government doesn't like this treatment, although it's helping a lot of people and can help a lot of people. This is something that at some point the FDA, you're going to get a glimpse from them, or they're going to find out what you're doing. And although we weren't doing anything illegal at the time at all, they just didn't like it. And when you do something the government doesn't like, even at a small scale, if it's a large scale, you're never going to be able to sell that business, or people aren't going to be interested in it, etc. So we realized, okay, we gotta flip it over to Genesis. And when we do that, we really had that conversation of what do we have to make sure that we're doing. And the good thing was that actually Brent and I, we met at that mastermind called Arate. And a big part of Arate was their core values and teaching us as business owners, you need to start with your core values, which is a phenomenal lesson. And so we were like, I was to the book. I'd spent my $50,000 to be there in Arte. I was making sure that we were going to do everything by the fucking book that these guys had told us to do. And now that both of them are billionaires, so it worked. And we sat down and I said, we got to do our core values. So we did our first core values, and there was 8 of them, and we had them down, and we stole some of them from supplement superstores, and we used them, some others as our own. And it was essentially just like how we wanted to be in the business. We wanted to make sure we were going the extra mile and providing good customer service and having integrity, and really, it wasn't accountability, but it was phrased as something else back then. It was like take responsibility, I think it was. Um, and so we wanted those core values to describe our business, and that's really what we started with. Was those core values? They were on our website at the beginning. They're still on there now, but our website was only at the beginning, 15 pages, and now it's tens of thousands of pages because of how big we've gotten. But we really focused on that first. And I mean, as we expanded and as we grew, that had to kind of change and improve as we've expanded. And you've been through that as well, not only with your own businesses, but when you joined us, you've seen kind of the evolution of how we've done things.
Yeah, how do you feel like having core values has shaped the direction that Genesis has gone, and even the scale that it has grown to?
I think having the core values has always allowed us to fall back on, okay, is this in line with our core values and what we want in our company? And that is from the services that we're going to do, to the people that we hire, to the people that we have to let go, from top to bottom. It allows you to do all of that. And I think it helps not absolve you from responsibility, but it really helps you fall back on something as a leader, because usually people are looking to you and they're like, well, that person just doesn't, the CEO or the COO they just didn't like that person. That's why they fired them. Or, that manager just didn't like that person. They had it out for them, and that's why they got fired. So there's always this, oh, well, it's because the person above me didn't like me. That's why I got fired, or that's why I got released. And having core values removes all of that, removes all that bullshit. Because when you really follow the core values, and you hire based off the core values, you reprimand based off the core values, and you document it, the person can see all the times that they've gone against the core values. When looking back at that, there's no one to blame at that point other than themselves.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that you can do. And it helps you as a business owner, because I hate fucking firing people. It is awful, because I always felt like I failed that person. And some people I have fired, and they're horrible humans, and I just didn't see it. And we had to fire them because they were doing something illegal or something against our core values, integrity, etc. But there's some really good people that we've had to let go that really they're just not efficient at their jobs.
Yeah.
We love them. They're great people, but they just cannot perform the job.
Mm.
And that's with all the training that we have and everything like that, that's not acceptable because if they can't do the job, then they're just going to hurt the rest of the teammates. And we have very small very small staff teams in locations. And, somebody taught me a long time ago, you have to fire sometimes loyalty and hire for efficiency.
Mm.
So if you got a loyal person that loves your business and they love your brand, great, that's cool. And I love it. And I'm going to do everything they can to grow in our business. But if they are great and they're loyal and they can't do the job, that's something that you cannot allow in your company. You have to get rid of that person.
How long would you keep somebody, or would you like, what would be the tipping point where
Yeah.
you just said, like, this just isn't gonna work if somebody was loyal, but they weren't able to do the job?
Well, there's always the phrase like hire slow, fire fast. I think when it comes to that, you have to make sure that you did everything you could to train that person. So we usually do, a three strikes policy kind of thing or three reprimands policy. And you have to be direct. You cannot say, hey, we think you should do this, or I'm not sure you're doing this right, or you got to say, hey, look, this happened. This violates our core values in this way. I need you to do this instead.
Mhm.
And let's follow up on it. And then you follow up on it and you make sure that the behavior is corrected. 9 times out of 10, it's a miscommunication. The staff member doesn't want to come to your business or doesn't want to work for you and fuck shit up. Most people don't. They need money. Everybody needs money. So they want to go to their job and they want to do a good job and they don't have the intention of fucking up your business. That's usually people aren't going to go through the entire process of interviewing and coming to work every single day just to fuck up your shit.
Yeah.
So, making sure that you've done that redirection. And if it's the same redirection that's happening over and over and over, after again, 3 times, they're just not going to learn it. If you've sat them down, you've trained them, they've had adequate training, and you look at yourself as a leader and you say, hey, did I provide everything that this person needs in order to succeed and do the thing that I want them to do? If you have, after 3 times, there's no one to blame but themselves. And
Yeah.
you have to realize as a business owner, well, it can't go 10 times, 12 times, because we've done that too, where we've allowed somebody to just sit and we've given them chance after chance after chance. And really, after 10 or 12 times, then we're finally okay, like they need to be let go because they don't get it. But we've lost like 6 months of having a high quality or a very good, efficient teammate
Mm.
in that position. And by that time, we've pissed off the rest of the staff that are working with that teammate because there are 5 or 6 other people on the team that for 6 months we haven't gotten rid of the dead weight.
Mm.
So as a leader, again, that's our fault. Like you either get rid of the person who might live your core values, but it just can't do the job, or they don't live your core values and they're in there just being a dipshit. If you allow either of those things to happen, you're going to alienate the other 95% of your team. And the problem is, we've gotten into the position where the other side of people, the 95% that are good people who really want to, they've gone somewhere else. They've quit
Mm.
because we've kept the 5% who really are just not doing their job, pushing their work onto other people, not having accountability, have terrible attitudes, etc. And it just hurts your business way more.
Yeah, then you can't, then the vision, it's like, how do you maintain the vision as you grow? Well, that's a part of it. You have to be willing to let go of people who don't fit your core values. And I can imagine, and I've been around to see some of that, and so I know that's not always the easiest decision, but it is a necessary one. Uh, thinking about leaders, like I'm looking at my Starbucks cup right here, our Starbucks that we've had this morning.
Right? Thank you
Uh,
for that, by the way. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
you're welcome. Uh, the the brand like Starbucks, what Howard Schultz has done, and even like Tom's, where they have you buy a shoe, you give a shoe. It's just actually this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning with the baby diapers. You buy baby diapers, give baby diapers. Like great. Um, but how these companies really have fought. I mean, Starbucks, Tom's, they've really fought to keep their values intact during the scaling process. And, it's like you're having a similar experience. And so, how do you see that playing out right now where you're and we as a company are in the middle of exponential growth? And you do have teams all over the country in 22 states, and you're not talking about 20 locations with 5 people each and 100 people to maintain the core values, but now hundreds and hundreds of people over 80 locations, 80 plus locations. Like, how do you see that happening as we scale?
The way we've really tried to focus on keeping our core values intact is bringing them into every single conversation that I possibly can have. We currently communicate across the country through Workplace for Meta. I think it's going away in 2026, and we're going to transition to another model, but it doesn't really matter. What it is we have essentially Facebook for Genesis specific. And we talk about announcements and shout outs and everything on there. And whenever I try and post on there, I always try and bring the core values into what I'm posting. Pick out a core value, or if the post talks about multiple core values, if I can, I try and bring them in as much as I can. When we have our corporate meetings monthly, I'm always trying to talk in the language of bringing in 2 or 3 core values. When we onboard people, we make sure, and you made sure, creating the onboarding system that they got the core value speech from Brent and I. They got the information on Genesis and the logo and why we have it. And we're always, again, talking about the core values. When we have Sean, our HR director, talk to staff members or reprimand staff members, he's always talking back to the core values and connecting everything about the core values. And those were all tricks that my mentors really drove home, was that the only person who's going to be tired of talking about the core values and hearing about it is going to be you. Otherwise, if you're talking to this manager and then this manager and then this manager, and you talked about the same core value of accountability 3 different times, it's the same repeating shit for you, but each one of those people only heard it once.
Mm.
And you have to remember that with your staff, is that you got to repeat yourself over and over and over and over, because they're like your children, where one day it's going to click for them. But the 10 times before that, they might have just been, spacing out or on their phones or something like that, where they didn't hear the whole thing and it didn't really resonate with them. So you should have no issues with repeating yourself over and over. And even great podcasts do this, that I've heard. Andy Frisella with the MFCEO project, they had 300 episodes, and there was a bunch of repetition, because, again, repetition is key to learning. The more you just talk about the same shit over and over and over, at some point it's going to click in your mind that, okay, this is important. So it's again, when we're scaling, it's a repetition. It's making sure that everybody talks about the core value. It's making sure that when we message staff members and text back and forth, even, I'm always thinking, okay, how can I bring a core value into this conversation? How can I speak to the core values in this conversation? And it could be about anything that they're texting me about, but I try and bring one of those 7 core values into the conversation, so that, hey, they understand what we are about as a team, and I'm consistently speaking that language over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that's so good. It makes me think about having our SOPs really reinforcing our core values. The time that I got to spend in the clinic with our clients, anytime I was working with our sales staff, or even as a provider, if I was pulled into a room to actually help support the sales process, I always brought up core values in front of our clients too. So the team heard it, but then also the clients knew what we stood for and that we were a company with core values. And so a lot of times when I would be brought into a room, I would just like, hey, introduce myself. Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm one of the providers here at Genesis. And since one of our core values is teamwork, they've pulled me in so I can help you in this process. What questions do you have? And it's like, they're just like, oh, 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 how many people, do they go see that they go, hey, we have core values as a company and a teamwork is a part of that. And so here I am as helping my teammate, and it
Absolutely.
takes it down like, oh, this isn't another person trying to sell me something. It's like, oh, okay, they're really supporting one another in this clinic. Um, and so anytime I could bring in conversation, like in front of our actual clients, that was something that I tried to do and encouraged our teammates, certainly at the Dallas clinics, to do the same.
Yeah.
And including those in our SOPs is super important.
Yeah. And it's super important in your branding as well, because the second most visited web page on your website is going to be the About Us page. So the first
Mm.
most visited is obviously your front web page. It's just when people go to your website, you have the front web page. That's the first most visited page. The second most visited page is the About Us page, if you have one. So that should tell you a lot, is that they want to know about you. They want to know about your business and why you're doing it. And having your core values on that page and speaking to that is extremely important. You should have that on there because people want to buy from people that they like and people that are like them. So
Mhm.
if you go on there and they look at your About Us page and they're like, we love the Nazis and we hate everything blue. It's like, okay, well, you're probably not going to get a lot of clients, but that's an extreme case,
Mhm.
obviously. But it's really important to know that, because you want to put your About Us, what's important to you, why you have your core values, what kind of service you're going to bring. Because I've called businesses out on that, actually,
Mm.
because if they're fucking up or doing something stupid, I will literally look up their core values and I'll tell them, hey, your core value is this and this. Like, I'll school them on their own core values. Like,
That's
this
fantastic.
this is this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Do you really think you're living your core values? Do you think if I asked your boss if you were living your core values, or they heard about this story, would be acceptable to you? You
Mm.
think it'd be acceptable to them if they knew what you were doing in this situation? And it takes a lot for me to fucking get there on that part, but I have done it before with businesses. And guess what? The next day, almost everything's fucking fixed, because they go back to what their core values are and what they should be, or how they should be living their core values. And I demand the
Mm.
same from our own staff and our own teammates. If there are a core, the core value of integrity, like if you break that core value, you're out, period.
Mhm.
There are other core values like customer service. Hey, we can do a little bit better here. Teamwork, you could do a little bit better here. But the ones that you just, again, core, integrity, that's one offense, you're gone.
Do you feel like that core value holds a bit more weight in
Yeah.
our list of core values then?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Mhm.
Determination, innovation, growth, those are all things that can be trained. You can push people, etc. You have accountability, which again, you can train people on. Customer service, you could train people on. And then
Teamwork.
teamwork, you can train people on. But integrity, you can't really train people on it.
Mhm.
It's who they are as a person. And we have rigorous, onboarding systems, and we have rigorous trainings and everything like that, as well as our uh, actual interviews to figure out if they are a person that has integrity or not. But, sometimes we've been wrong. But that is definitely a weighty core value. If you break
Mhm.
that core value, like I said, it's a one and done thing. I mean, I think any entrepreneur, any business owner would agree with that. If you break the core value of integrity in a business, like, nobody wants you fucking around at all.
Yeah. There's
Like,
no coming back from that.
there's no coming back from that.
Mm-mm.
So it's absolutely, that's why it stands on its own as well in our
Mhm.
mnemonic: dig deep and act with integrity, because integrity just is just there. It just sits heavy on its own, doesn't need any explanation, period. You
Yeah.
either act with integrity or you don't belong here. So as we have expanded, and Genesis has expanded to, the few locations we had, to the 13 locations that we had at the beginning of 2023, to now, 70, almost 80 plus locations, you've seen and you've actually built out systems that we've put in place to help these locations kind of grow, stick to the core values. And then your position has changed, spot to spot to spot. That's really supported that supported that core value. So how was really us putting you in that role, I guess, and developing that, and then what you developed with our whole now Genesis University system, how has that played into, I guess, our core values? How have you seen that? How have you seen that work out?
Well, I think in order to scale, there were some things that were missing, and you guys were so busy on growing. There were aspects that needed to be developed so that everybody was doing the same thing the same way, and that new innovative ideas could be communicated. But then also creating the Genesis way is like the bigger why. Why are we doing these things? Which we talked about in a different podcast. Is weight loss about weight loss, or is it about the benefit that somebody gets after they feel good, look good, and can live their life in a healthier way? Like, why are we doing it? And being able to communicate that. And I think that in order to really scale, these fundamental pieces needed to be there. And all of those things had to do with core values. Because how do we set our teams up for success? Well, we need to give them the tools, because a lot of these people are new in leadership, or have only been in a few years, so they're green. And it's like, well, we need to give them the tools to be a better leader. And part of that is, how do they reprimand somebody if there is an issue in the office, so that they can go back to their core values? So our leaders can go and coach somebody on their team if they're out of sync with the core values. So what do they have in place to do that, other than just saying, "Hey, you're not living core values." Well, okay, well, what do I
Yeah.
need to do, and how do
Well,
I
yeah.
need to do it? And how do you make that a measurable change, so that somebody can say, "Okay, I've really improved in this area," or somebody can say, "Hey, you're not improving in this area," and then we know it's time to let you go. And so, some of those systems were paperwork on follow-ups if somebody needed to get written up for something.
Mhm.
Well, what happens in 30 days? What happens in 90 days? How do you make it achievable for somebody to actually succeed as a leader, but then also as a team member? And having data points is a really uh, foundational part to making sure that our teams are set up for success. So I think that's been a beautiful thing to see unfold. We have created a lot of things that I think even some of our teams don't know we have yet. So really allowing them the opportunity to get in there and use these tools that we have created over the last couple years. It takes a little bit of time, because as we've gotten bigger, our ship has gotten bigger. You move it just a little slower. You can't, you don't like, I guess you don't launch new things and have it like just take off the same way as when you're a smaller company. But, as we continue to grow and people tap more into Genesis University and have those tools at their fingertips to be better leaders and to really stand in our core values, I've been honored to be a part of, because it really creates a bigger why with the company. And I've seen people really grow into their leadership roles and take it more seriously and get excited at our corporate events. And for me, it's been fun, because I haven't done the same thing for very long ever in this company.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
do something for about 6 months at a time, and then it's like, "Okay, we got that started, and so now we need to do this thing," and
Mhm.
so filling in the gaps or the holes, and having a high level overview. It's taught me an incredible amount, but having a high level overview on the pulse of the business as a whole versus just one or two tasks has been really cool, because I'm a part of, marketing conversations or social media conversations or team conversations, HR conversations, scalability, all of this stuff. has made me a better leader and communicated. I'm able to communicate our why even better to our clinic directors and our teammates because I have seen from such a high level viewpoint. And people ask me like, what's your title? I'm like, I don't really have a title and
Right.
and I have a title. I've had titles and it usually lasts about 6 months and then it would need to change because I'm doing something different.
Yeah.
So just say I'm an executive with the
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
That'll be the easiest way to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Filling in shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Doer of things.
Doer of things is like
What
exactly
I
what
do.
your job is for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
But no, it's been really important to have somebody like you on board that helps Brent and I, not only from the female perspective as well, but also just another voice in another head that is in the mind space of having the core values. So your position and your growth in the company has really helped, and that's what I recommend anybody do is that always make sure that all of your executives or the people at the top are speaking the same language. Make sure that they all are on the same team, that they all agree on things, and if they disagree, let them disagree privately, figure that out, and then present it to the rest of the staff of a united agreement of like united collaboration. So
Mhm.
don't be a mom versus dad type thing where an employee is going to say, well, Amanda's like this, but Brent's like this. And it will help you with your core values and help with your culture when you guys are all on the same page from the top down,
Mhm.
big time.
Yeah, well, I've always heard that statement, leadership comes from the top down.
Yeah.
And when we're a united front, we've really got four of us, at the helm of the ship, if you will. And I think when people see us all working together, enjoying each other and excited about the vision together, they're much more likely to jump on board and be excited about the vision. So as the company grows, everybody keeps moving in the same direction.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. And so as you scale, obviously, you're going to come across different situations and other businesses in competition that may be doing shit a little bit shady. And this is, guys, this has always been the case in any type of business, no matter what, whether I built business in the med spa world or built the business in the wound care world or manufacturing in the pharmaceutical world, etc. They all have the same fucking story. The competitor that literally blows past you because they are doing something shady or illegal or whatever. And guess what, guys? Fucking 5 years down the line, every single one of those people are completely irrelevant.
Mhm.
They're fucking shut down, or their staff all left, or something happens where those people never ever do well. And I've seen it even in the masterminds that I've been in. I've only been in this, mastermind and self development entrepreneurial guru space for 5 or 6 years, and I would say, fuck, 50% of the people, even more, maybe 75% of the people, have turned out to be pieces of shit or run a really crappy business, or they're smaller now than they were back then because they don't have good core values. They don't stick to the core values. They don't have integrity. And as a result of that, they built really really great businesses, really big, really fast, and guess what? They got set on fire and burned to the ground. And that's what you guys have to understand. Slow and steady, when you have integrity about your business, you will grow, and it's going to become a hockey stick, and you're going to outgrow all of those businesses combined within 12 months once it actually hits. So for Genesis, people don't realize that, but there was a Genesis before Brent and I got together. Brent had owned and operated like 3 or 4 clinics, up to 7, and then he split with his old business partner. So when I came on board, there was 4 locations. We built our first one together in 2019, but he had already been in it since 2008. So a lot of the problems, I just listened to the problems and listened to what he was doing, and he was already 11 years into business doing this. And so we he had already solved a lot of the things, and all he needed was somebody to be like, okay, let's go. And integrate a bunch of things and be the essentially the executioner of ideas. And that's what I did. And again, we went from the one location we have together to now over 80 locations like a hockey stick. And we went from the one location to 26 locations until this year. And then we went from 26 to over 80 just in this year. It's the same thing with Accesso Biologics, a business that I joined now over a year ago. I was an outside counsel, and then I ended up buying into the company, and now I'm one of the board members and one of the um, essentially advisors to the company. They went from, no money for 2 years doing all the paperwork, the setup and everything, properly hiring the correct lawyers, the correct FDA, there's all these different acronyms for all the things we had to do for the certificates and how we distribute wound care products and register wound care products, et cetera. And we saw all these people flying past us. And I remember the CEO, Mike Aquino, phenomenal business guy, phenomenal friend. The reason why I joined their company was because they had integrity and they were doing everything right. But it was a fucking headache. It was so much heartache because you could see all these people fucking blowing past us, making tens of millions of dollars doing illegal shit or borderline stuff or cutting deals in the back doors, etc. And now all those businesses have like either petered out or they're got in trouble with the government now. And there was that huge clawback that everybody's seeing, like $2 billion in illegal billing stuff. All companies that we knew of and we decided to not associate with, we didn't do business with. Mike has always been on the straight and narrow, and Therese, the COO there, has always been on the straight and narrow, making sure that we are always doing things 100% correct. And as a result of that, this year, all the companies that were our competitors, they've either shut down or they're in big trouble, and all the business now is going to us at Accesso. And we went from, $200,000 in sales last year to $35 million net and $250 million in just the last 6 months. And it's on track to be over $1 billion in sales with, almost $100 million or over, I think, in net profits by the end of this year in Q4 of 2024. I mean, that's in 12 months. We went from that. And it's the same with your business, guys. If you stick to it, at some point, you are going to have that hockey stick growth. And guess what? At this point, we're breathing easy because we have done nothing illegal to get to this point. We've built it right. And now that we scale, the core values are there. The culture is there. Everybody knows, okay, now it's go time. Let's explode this business. And everyone else out there has seen that and they want to come do business with us. All of these other clinics that have joined Genesis and want to be a part of Genesis, they've seen how we do things. They see how much integrity we have. They see we're going to do the right thing by them every single time because that's what our culture is. So they want to be around that because this medical field world is filled with fucking dipshits and people who just want to make a quick buck and hurt people and, they don't care if they fuck people over. And in the end, in a business world, that's what's going to burn you to the ground. The number one way to get extremely wealthy, guys, is to make everyone around you extremely wealthy and to make sure that you do it with the utmost integrity and you're going to grow. It is fucking inevitable, especially in the medical field.
Well, go fast. Go fast. Go alone, go fast. How's that statement? Go far, go together.
Exactly. Yeah. The old African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And Brent and I always talk about that, always. And that's a huge part of our culture and a huge part of teamwork, which is one of our core values, 100%. As we've grown across the nation in different regions, have we had to adapt our core values at all?
No, definitely not. They've stayed the same and have been foundational. And that's why we've seen the growth.
Exactly. That's why they fucking work because people think, oh, well, these types of people don't need these core values or this type of clientele doesn't like those core values. That's fucking bullshit. And I like how Vaughn wrote this question on here. When you're scaling across different regions or even industries, how do you adapt your core values to new environments without losing their essence? If you think you have to adapt your culture, like in your core values, you don't have the right fucking culture or core values. You shouldn't have to adapt it at all. Now, does it evolve? Slightly to a degree. And I've talked about this before. We did evolve our core values from what was only Brent and Mai's core values that we created to our executives' core values. But even then, like I said, we dropped off one core value and we added another. We still ended up with 7 core values. They are executives made up those core values and they still fit into the same core values. It was really just different wording that we had before. So our culture was already there, our core values were already there, and as we expanded across the United States, you didn't have to fucking change them because it's what we believed in as a business. You don't have to adapt them, you don't have to grow them. If you want the business to run a certain way, then you just follow those core values. That's who you are. That's what you should be as a business.
Well, and what you did was get the buy-in of the company. They were a part of making the core values or reassessing. And even with just a few minor changes, they now are committed to those core values because they were a part of the process. So including your teams as you've scaled to a new level, and not that they need to be redone again, but a few years ago when they were done and you brought on the executives, and it wasn't just you and Brent, it was like now as a team, they've decided here's what the company stands for. So you're not getting their compliance. Okay, I guess I'll do teamwork because you said I should. It's like, no, I'm going to be a great teammate because I believe I should be a great teammate. And that's how you get commitment over compliance. Sure, you can tell people, but if they don't feel it for themselves, then they're it's only going to go so far. And you including the executives in that decision was, I think, a huge factor in why, as the company has scaled and grown, those core values have continued to play such a major role in the success of the
Absolutely.
company.
And when you're scaling, you cannot allow those core values to slack at any moment. So if you feel that, if we feel like a location is not living their core values, we'll go in there and we'll say, hey, what are we doing here? We're not following our core values, et cetera. When we acquire a company, a lot of times companies don't have core values or they have people who aren't living the core values. And you find out really quick from the good people that will align with your company right away if you buy or acquire a medical clinic, who's the people who live your core values and who's the people that aren't.
Mhm.
And Brent and I will go in there and we'll fire every single person that isn't living the core value. And that's one thing you have to do as you scale is that if you're going to make sure that you live and breathe your core values and you fight for your core values, and that's a hill you die on, no matter what business that you acquire, no matter who you go into, there can't be one location that's not living your core values and you just leave them alone.
Mm.
When we bought 3 clinics in California, there was like 21 employees and there was, I think, 17 or 18 of them that just straight up were not living our core values. There was infighting, there was poor customer service, there was zero accountability, there was all this he said, she said garbage. And guess what? We fired every single fucking one except for like the 5 good people that would live Genesis core values. And we replaced them all.
Mm.
And it took, gosh, 6 months to right that ship. And Brent and I were losing money every month on those clinics because they, again, poor staff leads to poor customer service. We had a great product, but again, your staff and your culture and your customer service is what's going to provide income. And so with that, we had to make sure we cleaned out all the bad people. And after 6 months, the regional manager there, who's phenomenal at her job, she's like, "Oh, it's totally different than it was 6 months ago. There aren't the problems that we used to have." Yeah.
Mm.
And I told her, yeah, because I fucking fired everyone. Literally. She's like, "Oh, yeah, that's true." And sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go and do what's called a public execution because people forget what it took for you to get to where you are today. And it wasn't sometimes clean and pretty. Sometimes it was like, hey, you got to live the core values and do what we tell you to, or there's the door. People forget that. So kids start to act up, and every once in a while, you got to go on their butts and be like, hey, don't fucking do that.
Yeah, so along that those lines, what would you tell someone like our listeners, what are some of the warning signs that like leaders should be looking for when a culture or core values are starting to slip?
My business partner, Brent Messer, he heard a phrase and a saying that he's taught me, and we always go back and forth about the same phrase every single time. And the phrase is, if there is somebody in your company that is being brought up more than twice a week, there's a problem. And it's usually with that person. And at that point, you should eliminate them.
Mm,
And I'm not saying no questions asked, because obviously you have to investigate, hear both sides of the story, see what's going on. But if you have the same person being brought up more than twice a week and you have to consistently solve a problem or listen to an issue or worry about like, hey, we this person again doing this wrong, or the culture isn't right with this person, or et cetera, and it's the same person at least twice a week, that's somebody you just can't have in your business. And I don't care if it's the best fucking salesperson in your company, or if it's a manager, or if it's something else, you got to go solve that problem. And a lot of times I would say it ends up in that person being eliminated
mm.
from the company. Because if other people are bringing that person up more than one time a week, you can't have 7 or 8 people that are wrong. There's just a number to where if like 4, 5, 6, 7 people are saying the same shit about the same person, same
Mhm.
one person being brought up over and over and over, and that one person is saying something different, well, guess who you're going to believe? The fucking crowd, who, again, you've made sure that their stories are correct and they, all align with each other and there isn't wild, mutiny going on. But I've never had that. We've never seen it in our company. So people are like, well, the the people are going to rise up against the manager. Like, we've never fucking seen it because we hire
Mhm.
well, we have the core values, etc. We've never seen it where 5 people say this person's a problem and we go in there and that person's not the fucking problem. We've never seen it. So you have to look for those warning signs. If they're being brought up more than twice in a week, there's something wrong with them. Also, you just look at your customer service. How are your reviews? Are the reviews starting to slip? Are you getting 3-star, 2-star, 1-star reviews on a consistent basis? And when you question your staff about it, or your manager, or the person who they named in it, they're always deflecting. Again, accountability, core value in our business. Oh, it wasn't my fault. It was their fault. It was this. Yeah. It's not okay. Yeah, I did that. I'll do better. I'll improve myself.
Mhm.
So accountability is a huge part. If somebody can't have accountability in your business and they're pointing at other people consistently, then again, it's probably them that's causing the issue. So that's another warning sign you have to look for. What have you seen? Because you've done a lot of emotional intelligence courses and classes, and from a female perspective, what do you see a lot in? I mean, somebody that might not jive with the culture, or as a manager, they should be looking for?
I think focus on their job is a key factor. Can they focus on the task at hand? Because I find that people that don't have a lot of free attention are misaligned internally. And that misalignment gets projected out onto clients, other team members. It makes them inefficient in their positions. Um, that's where you would get deflecting because, of course, they don't have a healthy sense of um, like personal responsibility. Is this person acting deliberately? Do they slow down enough to actually think through what they're going to do, or are they just rapid with decisions that are going to affect other people? Do they care about how their decisions and how they're showing up affects the rest of the team or the clients? I guess here's one aspect. We have a lot of women in our company. And so, when a woman has a lot of sexual energy, oh, there's a time and a place for it. I think, a woman should be in tune with her sexuality.
Mhm.
But in our clinics, that's not necessarily the place.
Yeah, yeah.
So if there's a woman that has a lot of sexual energy, what is the impact on the rest of the team with that energy? What's the impact when a husband and a wife come in and they're looking for weight loss? How's that wife feel? What does it do to the husband? We sell sexual wellness. So does a man like sitting across the table from a woman telling you how he can't get an erection when
Mhm.
she's got all this sexual energy? It's conflicting and it's
Mhm.
hard for people to open up. So it's like, I think how someone shows up and how they're being is a very important thing to look at, and usually can be coached with some level of training, personal development, some awareness around what they're doing or how they're being with other people. That's something that I personally have worked on a lot through the years. That's why I bring it up, because early on, being in Vegas and young, before I did personal development, I thought that's how you got what you wanted,
Mhm. Right?
like it all this sexual energy. And it was
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's what everybody does in Vegas. And I made a lot of money because I had modeling positions, and that was the role I was in at the time, was to use that energy to be the best in my role. And so I started thinking about what when I started doing personal development courses. I actually remember one of the courses that made the biggest difference for me in that area was the tool, or the I would want to say the exercise within the course was set up for you to feel that if there was any sexual energy there. And I was like, oh, I this guy was looking at me, and like, what was that about? And the trainer was like, well, do you think about how you show up when you walk into a room?
Mm.
And I was like, "Well, no,
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
really."
yeah. Yeah.
She's like, "Of course
I just got my tick
of
old bitties out.
yeah, of course he's gonna look at you that way.
Mm.
Of course that's the perception he's getting, because that's the energy you're putting off there."
Okay.
And it could be anything, not just sexual energy. It could be an attitude, or, a sharpness, or, all of those things. I think going back to the emotional intelligence and some of the things that you should look for is really, how is the person being? What does it feel like when you're with that person?
Mhm.
Is it open? Is it clean? Does the energy feel clean? And is there a sense of curiosity, or is the person real set is focused here? Like, of course, telling stories are important, but if in the consultation process there isn't a curiosity, well, why is that important to you?
Mm.
What do you want to get out of that? If it's just about making the sale so I can get my commission, my questions are going to be different. And so those things I think need to be coached. Um, and that takes a deeper look, and I think that takes a stronger leader in the business day to day. Like, we might not see those things the same as our clinic director sees those things. So equipping our clinic directors to watch for those things, first know it for themselves, and then second, equipping them to be able to pinpoint those things within their staff so they know how to coach them,
Mhm.
I think is really important in the emotional intelligence side. That's not as clean cut and easy and clear to say, well, this is the one or two things you're going to look for. It does take a level of leadership, personal responsibility, deliberate action, and growth from your leaders in your clinics to know how to do. So, I personally think investing in our clinic directors in that way is really valuable, because it does help them coach the energy that's happening in the clinics.
Yeah, growth is a huge part of our core values, and that's not obviously just growth within the company in terms of financial growth, but it's personal growth as well. I mean, your staff has to know how to manage, has to have emotional intelligence, and sometimes that will take a long time for them to get to the same level. But again, you also have to look at yourself and work on yourself as a leader and be able to impart that to your staff members. You have
Mhm.
to say, hey, this is what I've done in the past to help improve this situation, or help improve my awareness of this. This is what you should be working on and doing as well. And then they're able to move that down the line. And that's a huge part of making sure that your business, again, is aligned and that all your core values continue to be pushed down the line.
Mhm. Well, yeah, and I kinda wanna kind of close in the statement on what I was saying about sexual energy, and a commitment I made to myself after I had these realizations was I knew I was going to be working with a lot of men because I knew I wanted to be in more of a corporate role, which is predominantly male driven companies. And so one of the things that I decided early on very deliberately for myself was that I always wanted to present myself in a way that when I was working with somebody's husband, the wife never had to worry,
Mm,
because I wanted wives to feel confident that I could come in, support the husband, and that there was no sense of competition or desire or some unclean thing happening behind the scenes. Like wives being confident that this woman can be trusted with my husband.
mhm.
And I think that that's been a really important part of the process. And I've seen that even in the clinics because I've sat across the table talking to men who are there for sexual wellness. And they'll tell me, "I've never told anyone this. I can't believe I'm telling you."
Mhm, mhm.
And they're like, didn't think I was gonna be sitting across the table from a pretty lady, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Mhm.
And it's like, but making them feel comfortable and confident. And if their wife was there, would the wife feel okay with how I was being in the consultation so that the husband could get to the result he was looking for?
So as
Yeah.
a female professional, I think a lot of women, I mean, even in our own company, struggle with this. What are some tricks that they can use or that they can learn from that you have utilized or implemented to have those conversations with men and to make them feel disarmed to a degree, and same with their wives or their spouses, disarmed to a degree when they're sitting across talking to an attractive person about sexual things or sensitive things? What are some great tricks there? Because I think this is really important, especially in our field with that's 90% dominated by females. And most of
Mhm.
the time people are like, well, I don't want to do sexual wellness because men won't go to women. And it's like, that's not fucking true at
Mhm.
all. You have to train your females to speak properly to men, and men understand that this is, again, a medical provider, which we're programmed since we're kids, medical provider, first responders, et cetera. It doesn't matter what they look like or what sex they are. They're important and they're going to be able to do their fucking job because they had to
Mhm.
do things to get to where they are in order for them to have those badges or have those fucking degrees. So, what are some tricks? I'll shut up because this is really important.
Yeah. Well, the very first thing is making sure that you are focused on helping the patient and asking the direct questions to get to the answers so that you can solve the problem. If if it's a real like casual kind of conversation, it doesn't feel, it's not as professional and it doesn't feel as easy to talk about. So it might feel like, you got to be casual so that they open up. No, it's like let's be direct, let's use the terms that are supposed to be used, let's know the service, ask the questions, and you feeling confident in being able to ask those questions without some, like discomfort, I guess, in it. So whether that means you need to practice
Hmm.
with a male, but having conversations that you can be really clear in your communication. That's important. So if that needs to get practiced, that should be something worked on. Work on it with somebody that you feel comfortable with, and then maybe you don't, and work your way up to having it with a complete stranger. And then I think focusing on however I'm being, what is the impact on the other person? What if it was flipped
Hmm.
and I was going into a doctor and I was having an issue? How would I want that person to respond to me? How would I want this person to feel so that I could openly share what I was experiencing, and flipping the script so that you can really get a sense of how you're being how does it impact the other person?
Mhm.
I think that's a level of integrity that's deeper than just do the right thing. It's how does everything I say and do impact the person across from me or the people, in the business. Um, I think being really clear on why you're doing it is also really important.
Mhm.
When I think about our sexual wellness services, these people are coming because they want to connect with another human being.
Mhm.
And many times that's their spouse, but whoever it is, you know, sexuality is something that's very normal and it's needed for human connection. So these people are feeling some sort of disconnect in their life. Loneliness can come with that, despair, embarrassment. It's like all these things that they're feeling. I have compassion for that. For whatever the re, you know, the resulting condition of what they're going through are all feelings I felt. I've felt lonely before. I've felt sad. I've felt despair, and having compassion for their experience and knowing that we have something that can help them, and that sadness, loneliness, and despair that they're going through right now doesn't have to last, that we can give them something that they can feel connected to their spouse again. I've had husbands tell me, like, my wife feels like I don't love her, and that's not it. Because they open up when you're in there, and it's like, I understand. I understand how she could feel that way, and I also understand how hard that must be on you.
Mhm.
So here's what we have that can help. It's like they wanna know that it's normal, that they're okay, that you felt the same way, you have compassion for them, and you really want to see them get to a solution that's gonna make their life better. I don't know if I answered the question as
No, I think
directly, but
no, I think
that's
that's extremely important, and I think it's important for all of our listeners to realize that we grow up, and then we'll just continue the talk about sexual health because that's what we do in one of our pillars with Genesis, and obviously that's one of the most difficult things to talk about for any type of adult or somebody who isn't used to it. Is that what Amanda's saying is that the more education you have about a service and you directly ask those questions about that service, the more confident that you will be, and in the end, the more confident the client will be telling you about the issues. You don't just sit there and again, we're little kids that grow up and little kids love the word penis and vagina and clitoris and all those shit, all those fucking words and you laugh and you snicker about it. But as a professional, you have to walk into a room and disconnect all feelings you have except for empathy. It's
Mhm,
essentially what she's saying. All feelings. There's no happiness, there's no sadness, there's no joy, there's no anger. There is only empathy when you walk in and you ask another person specific sexual questions. And you're making sure that, yes, you can have standard operating procedures to ask your sexual questions so you don't get off on a tangent or you don't get confused. And you can
mhm,
start with just those questions. And it's simply questions of, do you have morning erections? Do you feel like you have issues with keeping it up during sex? Or is it just not becoming erect in the first place? And writing these questions down, and again, practicing with friends, practicing with colleagues, and keeping not only a straight face, but inside realizing like, I got to remove all the feelings that I have that make me uncomfortable about this because it's
mhm,
not about me. Again, it's like building a business. This isn't about me. I'm here to solve this person's problem. And if I just ask the question and then write down the answer, it will give me all the puzzle pieces I need to make sure that I solve this person's problem. And clients will feel that. They'll feel that from a
mhm.
female. They'll feel that from a male. It's not like you're sitting in front of a male as a female and you're talking about getting it up and you're like, oh, I'd like to see that later. You're not saying inappropriate shit. You're asking the questions that are required And same with males to females.
Mhm.
You're not talking about the same, sexual questions. You are specifically asking the questions that are needed to solve the client's problem. And even if the spouse was there or not, you are asking the same exact questions. Period. There's no difference between if the spouse was there versus if the spouse was not there. It's very professional, very straightforward. You have the empathy in the place, but all the other feelings, the laughing, the giggling, the smiling, all that needs to fucking go away. And you need to beat it out of yourself.
Well,
That's
that
literally what you need to do.
you bring up a good point. So that's when I say practice, it's almost like see what comes up for you.
Yeah.
If you're asking the questions and you can't ask it without giggling, well, what judgment do you have on
Hmm.
that? Where does the giggling come from? Or what kind of label are we placing on these things that most of the time have come from some viewpoint in society or something that we grew up thinking was okay or not okay. And so we have these judgments and ideas and labels based off our past experience that have to get cleaned up. So that way, when we do go into these conversations, we can go in very open and curious and compassionate.
100%. Absolutely true. And I think that those points that you made are going to help a lot of people. It's very very important that you know how to do this, guys, especially in the medical field, because they teach us in medical school and residency and everything. You know, it doesn't matter black, white, Asian, trans, unicorn, identify as a dog. Like when you're cut open, all your shit looks the same. Like I couldn't
Mhm.
tell you what the fuck you were if I was just looking at your insides.
Mm.
Period. Like nobody fucking can. So you have to realize that as well, that the person in front of you is the same thing.
Mhm.
They're this, soul that's walking around with like a fleshy robot sack, and everybody's fleshy robot sack is different. But inside, you're all the fucking same. Everybody's the fucking same. You don't realize that. They're
Right.
all mammals. There isn't a level of I would say evolution where people have grown like horns or mutant shit or stuff like that yet. We're all the same inside,
Mhm.
period. So remember that. And then again, bring that back to your core values and bring that back to why that person's in front of you to have a problem solved. And when you can solve that problem and you do it properly with empathy, they're going to come back, they're going to pay a premium price, and they're going to want to be a part of what you're doing. And in closing, guys, when you're growing your business, when you're expanding, my dad used to always say, never forget where you come from. And that doesn't mean you have to have the mindset of where you come from. But when you're growing your business and you have your core values in place, never forget your core values. Always go back to making sure that what you're doing, the decisions you're making, the people you're hiring, and the services that you are delivering always are aligned with those core values. And if you ever find yourself in a wood and you look around and you've blown out your core values and you don't know what to do next, go back to the core values. Turn back. You can always turn back. You can always remove people that don't live your core values. You can always start over. Stick to the core values and you will build a massive company that everybody will want to be a part of and that everybody will want to buy from.